I'm Rosemary Jo and welcome to SG News. From the masked man causing chaos at St. Peter's Basilica by climbing onto the high altar to the couple in St. Elizabeth of Hungary Church who have been providing food to those in need, we have many stories to cover. A masked man caused chaos at St. Peter's Basilica by climbing onto the high altar, toppling 6 candelabras and removing the altar cloth as horrified visitors looked down. Vatican police swiftly detained the man, identified as being of Romanian origin, and later handed him over to the Italian authorities. This is the second desecration of papal altar in 2 years, following a 2023 incident where a man climbed onto it naked in protest of the war in Ukraine.
A masked man climbed onto the high altar at St. Peter's Basilica, toppled 6 candelabras, and proceeded to remove the altar cloth as the faithful and visitors watched in horror. The Italian news outlet ANSA reported that the man was of Romanian origin. He was quickly detained by the Vatican police and later charged by agents of the Vatican Inspectorate. Footage of the disturbing incident filmed by a visitor has been circulating online, sparking widespread concern. The high altar of St. Peter's Basilica, also known as the Papal Altar, is one of the holiest sites in Christendom. It stands directly above the tomb of St. Peter and was designed by the renowned Italian artist Gian Lorenzo Bernini, who also created the baldacchino that surmounts it. Matteo Bruni, director of the Holy See Press Office, told ANSA, quote, "This is an episode involving a person with a serious mental disability who has been detained by Vatican police and placed at the disposal of Italian authorities." End quote. This marks the second instance of desecration of the papal altar in 2 years. In June 2023, a man climbed onto the high altar naked to protest the war in Ukraine.
A Brazilian 3D artist recreated the bust of Saint Thomas Aquinas using photographic and structural data, providing us a glimpse into the face of the 13th century saint. Died at the age of 48, this angelic doctor had authored approximately 60 works and has been instrumental in shaping Catholic doctrine.
A Brazilian 3D artist, Cicero Moraes, has reconstructed the face of St. Thomas Aquinas, the angelic doctor who, in his 48 years of earthly life, authored 60 works, including his magnum opus, Summa Theologiae. At a time when faith and reason were often viewed as opposing forces, Aquinas emphasized their compatibility, arguing that both were essential for understanding truth. The saint, who lived in the 13th century, died in 1274 while traveling to an ecumenical council. According to a 2023 study by Gabriel J. Lebu, Abdul Rahman Al-Kiswani, Daniel J. Mauro, and Paul J. Camarata, published in the World Neurology Journal, Aquinas may have died from a chronic subdural hematoma resulting from a traumatic head injury. Some obscure Latin texts from the time suggest that Aquinas struck his head violently against an overhanging branch while on his journey. He later sought refuge at a Cistercian abbey, where he died a few weeks afterward. Currently, 2 skulls in the world are claimed to belong to St. Thomas Aquinas, one in Toulouse, France, and the other in Priverno, Italy. Moraes used the skull in Toulouse for his study, as it was deemed the more reliable of the 2. Since the skull was missing its jaw, Moraes and his team reconstructed it using photographic and structural data. Combining various data sources, Moraes and his team created a digital bust of the saintly philosopher, revealing the image of a handsome and noble priest. Professor Angela Nobel, the author of Aquinas and the Infused Moral Virtues, remarked, quote, "My first thought was that he looks so kind, exactly like I would have imagined him looking, and nothing like the way he's typically depicted." End quote. Another Thomistic scholar, Professor Gavin Kerr of St. Patrick's Pontifical University, Maynooth, observed a striking resemblance between the recreated image and Botticelli's famous painting of Aquinas. He noted that the reconstruction depicted a healthy and robust Dominican friar, challenging the exaggerated portrayals often seen in traditional artwork. Professor Eric Dempsey, Assistant Director of University of Texas's Thomas Jefferson Center for the Study of Core Texts and Ideas, while acknowledging that the science behind facial reconstructions is not widely understood, described the project as cool and emphasized that the truest way to know the saint remains through his extraordinary and timeless writings.
The world marks the 11th Anti-Human Trafficking Day, established by Pope Francis alongside the feast of St. Josephine Bakhita. This year's theme, Ambassadors of Hope, Together Against Human Trafficking, highlights the global effort to combat this heinous form of modern slavery.
The 11th Anti-Human Trafficking Day, established by Pope Francis in 2015, coincides with the feast of Saint Josephine Bakhita on February 8. Bishop Mark J. Sides of El Paso, chairman of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops Committee on Migration, described that human trafficking is not only a serious crime but also a denial of the inherent dignity bestowed upon every individual. He echoed Pope Francis's characterization of trafficking as an open wound on the body of Christ and on the body of all humanity, underscoring the need for a sustained and collective response. The Saint Josephine Bakhita was a Catholic nun who lived in Italy for 45 years after having been a slave in Sudan. According to UN records, around 50 million people worldwide are victims of human trafficking, with women, children, refugees, and migrants being the most affected. 1 in 3 victims is a child, and 79% of those exploited sexually are women and girls. Sites emphasized that Catholics are called to address the issue of human trafficking with both courage and compassion, to engage in difficult conversations and to confront the harsh realities of trafficking and exploitation. At the same time, efforts will continue to urge policymakers at all levels of government to implement meaningful responses to this moral crisis, strengthening existing protections and expanding services for survivors, including those supported by the landmark Trafficking Victims Protection Act. The life of Saint Josephine Bakhita serves as a reminder that fight against human trafficking is not only a social issue but also a spiritual mission. As a survivor of human trafficking, her journey from captivity to becoming a religious sister stands as a powerful testament to hope, healing, and resilience.
Pope Francis meets with a delegation of young Orthodox monks for the 5th time straight in a public address inside St. Peter's Basilica. He explains the urgency of fostering Christian unity in today's world and also explained about the importance of world's first ecumenical council, the Council of Nicaea.
On Thursday, Pope Francis reiterated his desire for full unity with other Christian confessions and emphasized the importance of ecumenism in today's world. In a public session with a group of aspiring priests from various Oriental denominations, the Holy Father stated, quote, "Christians who prefer to remain divided are like fragments, and they must urgently seek unity in the confession of one faith." End quote. The audience was part of a program for young Oriental Orthodox priests and monks organized by the Dicastery for Promoting Christian Unity. This marked the 5th time such a meeting had taken place. Pope Francis began his address by stressing that the proclamation of a common faith must be rooted in mutual love. He highlighted the special significance of the year 2025, which commemorates the 1700th anniversary of the Council of Nicaea, a council whose decisions continue to hold relevance today. Reflecting on the ecumenical dimension of the term symbol, the Pope noted that it was first used in the Nicene Creed to define the principal truths of the Christian faith, which complement and harmonize with one another. He also provided a linguistic analysis of the term, explaining that in ancient times, a tile was split into two and used as a token of recognition between parties. In the modern context, he said, it represents communion between believers. Pope Francis concluded by urging Christians to foster fraternity and brotherhood, emphasizing that each must profess their faith in accordance with the teachings of the Nicene Creed.
The 11th National Eucharistic Congress will be held in 2029. Jason Shanks, CEO of the National Eucharistic Congress, shared that they have begun the initial steps to prepare for the big event.
As confirmed by Catholic News Agency, the next National Eucharistic Congress will be held in 2029. Jason Shanks, CEO of the National Eucharistic Congress, shared that they have begun the initial steps in preparing for the 11th edition of the event. Earlier, it was tentatively announced that National Eucharistic Congress would take place in 2033, the year of redemption, marking 2000 years since Jesus' crucifixion. The location of the major Catholic event has not yet been revealed. Last year, the 10th National Eucharistic Congress held in the United States was the first such event to take place on American soil since World War II. The event witnessed thousands of people gathering for several massive sessions of Eucharistic adoration in Indianapolis, Lucas Oil Stadium. Numerous talks and workshops related to Catholic faith and a 60,000 participant Eucharistic procession through downtown Indianapolis. Shanks highlighted that success of the previous Congress is attributed to the countless individuals who prayed and interceded for the event. Therefore, the Church is invited to join in praying not only for planning for the upcoming Congress but also for the continued commitment to walk with one throughout this year of missionary sending.
Virginia McCaskey, the longtime owner of the Chicago Bears and daughter of MFL co-founder George Halas, passed away on February 6 at the age of 102. A devout Catholic and committed pro-life advocate, she dedicated her life to faith, family, and the sport her father helped shape. Remembered as the First Lady of the NFL, McCaskey leaves behind a legacy of unwavering faith, charitable work, and a profound impact on the football world.
Virginia McCaskey, the longtime owner of the Chicago Bears, daughter of NFL co-founder George Halas, and a devoted pro-life Catholic, passed away on Thursday, February 6th at the age of 102. Born to George Halas, a Czech Catholic, and Minnie Bushing Halas, a German Lutheran, McCaskey was deeply influenced by her paternal grandmother, who instilled in her the fundamentals of the Catholic faith during her frequent visits. McCaskey received a traditional Catholic education from a young age. In the early 1970s, while in her 50s, she became an active member of the devotional group World Apostolate of Fatima and was also a corporator of Opus Dei. She developed a lifelong habit of attending early morning daily mass, praying the rosary, setting aside time for personal prayer, listening to Catholic radio, and reading spiritual books. Virginia and her husband, Ed McCaskey, were deeply committed to raising their 11 children in accordance with their Catholic faith. A dedicated pro-life advocate, McCaskey was a frequent speaker at the Virginia March for Life. The American Life League, a Virginia-based pro-life organization, paid tribute to her in a heartfelt statement following her passing. The group highlighted her long history of support and stated, quote, "There is no doubt that countless lives have been saved through the work and tireless support of the McCaskey family," end quote. McCaskey inherited ownership of the Chicago Bears in 1983 after the unexpected death of her father. As the First Lady of the NFL, she quietly guided the team her father founded. She is survived by 9 of her 11 children as well as 21 grandchildren and 4 great-great-grandchildren.
If you are in Denver and in need of a meal or support, St. Elizabeth of Hungary Church is a place of refuge. For over 20 years, the church has been providing food to those in need thanks to the dedication of Dee and Steve Perez, a couple whose commitment to service has touched countless lives.
For over 20 years, the church has been providing food to those in need thanks to the dedication of Dee and Steve Perez, a couple whose commitment to service has touched countless lives. Now, after 2 decades of volunteering at the St. Elizabeth of Hungary sandwich line, Dee and Steve are retiring from their regular duties. Several times a week, they have prepared and distributed meals to the homeless, offering not just food but also compassion and dignity. The history of the St. Elizabeth sandwich line dates back to the Great Depression in 1930s. For Dee, the church holds a deep personal significance. Her parents were actively involved in this mission, making service a family tradition. When she and Steve returned to Denver in 1993, they naturally embraced the church's outreach efforts. For Steve, the mission was even more personal. Both of his parents were immigrants, and for a time, he and his mother experienced homelessness firsthand. When the couple first joined the sandwich line, it was a small initiative, but over time, their involvement helped it grow. Steve initially began volunteering, and Dee also joined him soon to support him, a decision that turned into a lifelong calling. While serving the community, their own bond as a couple deepened. The decision to step down was not an easy one. Dee admitted that the lunch line still hugs her heart. This isn't just a story of a couple who served meals. It's a story of 2 selfless individuals who saw the need and answered the call. Their lives have been a reflection of the gospel, and their legacy stands as a testament to Christ's love and compassion.
That's all for today. Until we meet again, God bless and thank you.